Hello!
You there, and welcome to another episode of A Spoonful of Theatre, Singapore's only theatre podcast.
I'm TJ, theatre practitioner, director and performer.
And I'm Sam, a teacher of language, literature and self-proclaimed show business lovey.
This is our podcast where we spill the tea on all things Singapore theatre.
It's tea time, and today's episode is titled And the Award Goes to...
Because we are interviewing the award-winning actress Rebekah Sangeetha Dorai.
Yes, it is our pleasure not only to welcome the first woman guest to the pod, but none other than the Straits Times Live Theatre Awards Best Supporting Actress of 2025.
But for now, pop the kettle on,
Grab a bicky,
and let's add a spoonful of theatre to sweeten up your day. Hey up, Sam, how are you?
Hello, love. How are you, darling? All right?
I am ready for a holiday.
Oh, I quite agree. I really
much.
do.
Now, of course, on the podcast, we do also like to stay abreast of the latest theatre news.
Yes.
And there was a big announcement, wasn't there, Sam? Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, yes. Base Asia has announced that later in the year, another show is coming to Singapore shores. And it's Dear Evan Hansen.
Mm-hmm.
And this is only a year since Pandemonium did their production. So it's caused quite the stir. It's caused quite the conversation amongst theatre lovers out there. And we have our thoughts on it as well, and we're happy to share with them. But before we go down that road, I think that's something that's very important here, TJ, that I think only you can answer, is how shows going on tour, how does that work? How are touring shows booked and organised and scheduled? Yep. Because I think that's an important aspect of this conversation.
It is, and I've spoken to a couple of people over at Base as well. Obviously, you know, we've got lots of friends in the industry, and the decision to do Dear Evan Hansen was first of all done with like a chat with Pandemonium as well. They've apparently had that conversation.
Oh, really?
Already,
right.
Yes.
Oh.
So that's very interesting. But realistically, when we're talking about big international productions, for example, Base and Marina Bay Sands, it's a bit different when you're producing. So like Pandemonium, for example, they can choose whatever they want because they're producing it themselves and they're casting local actors and doing all of the creative side of it. But someone like Marina Bay Sands are a hosting producer, and Base Entertainment are a hosting producer. So they basically say to a pre-existing show that's already on tour, hey, you're on tour, we'll have you. And they kind of buy it in. It's like a off the rack, you know, it's already there. And then they pick and choose their season throughout the year. And obviously Dear Evan Hansen is on tour. It's just finishing in the UK. And I think if I'm not wrong, it's coming to here first. And I did also see, I think it's going to the Philippines as well.
Oh, right.
So that same cast will go around and they'll go, you know, around the world. Usually often it starts in one country and then it goes on tour. So it's not necessarily a choice of saying this year we're going to produce Dear Evan Hansen because they did it last year and we can do it better or whatever, you know. It's not really that choice. It's just whatever is on at the time, and if that's the thing that they want to produce, then they'll buy it in. It will get mixed feelings because we've had, you know, such a wonderful production last year in Singapore already, and are people ready to watch it again a year later, you know? So that was our question.
Yes.
And we did post that question on our Instagram, and it was very interesting, some of the responses actually, because my maybe first initial response to that might have been, no, actually, I don't think people will be ready to watch it again. But actually, quite the opposite happened on our little small scale survey. But of course, I like to think it's a very, very important survey. So Sam, what did our lovely listeners say about that?
This was very, very interesting because it was 38% that said yes, 34% that said no, and 28% that said maybe. It's created a discussion. It's created a lot of chat, and this is something that we like. But best of luck to them. I hope whoever goes sees it loves it. Whoever's not seen it go and see it.
Yeah,
I think it's important to go and see it.
And you know what? It's good because I think Dear Evan Hansen, ultimately, the conversations that brings up as a story, and it's a very important message to the youth of today. And, you know, the messages that it deals with is really important. So, you know, honestly, the more people that see the production, even if because it will naturally, by being produced in Marina Bay Sands with a bigger marketing budget than perhaps Pandemonium are able to have, will reach maybe a wider audience, a wider public audience. So that'll be really exciting for that message to be shared wider as well. So all the best with that. But it's also very relevant to today's guest.
It is.
So it just happens to be that today we've got the fabulous Rebekah, who obviously played Heidi, the mum in Dear Evan Hansen in Pandemonium's production. And she just won the Best Supporting Actress Award at the Straits Times Awards, which I've been shouting this for the rooftops for years. Rebekah is honestly one of the best actresses in Singapore, and the fact that she's never won an award for one of her amazing performances, countless amazing performances over the past few years, absolutely beats me. So it's about time. Very glad to have her on the podcast straight after her award win. And I think she's almost here, Sam.
Oh, I cannot wait to see her and talk about this. Can't wait.
Okay, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Sam, we are finally joined by our first stunning female guest here at this podcast.
Yay. We have a lady.
A lady. It is Rebekah Sangeetha Dorai. Hello.
Hello, my darling. And not just any lady, TJ, but the Straits Times Live Theatre Awards Best Supporting Actress of 2025.
Of course. A long time coming, may I say.
Yes. How did you find out that you'd won the award?
I think it was somebody texted me.
Oh.
And said, girly pop, you won. And I was like, huh? What? And then I realized this person is better than the news because I got the information from her much quicker than the article itself.
Right.
And she was nominated in another show. Oh. So it was my castmate from Secondary the Musical.
Oh, right.
So I think she was keeping her eyes peeled. And she was like, girly pop, you won. And I was like, huh, what? And then I looked through everything. And then I realized, oh, yeah, because she was like, hey, we won Production of the Year and you won Best Supporting Actress. And I went, oh, wow, yay.
Yeah. And I mean, you were doubly nominated as well.
Yeah.
Which is very rare. Like literally, it was just you and Karen, right? Was it?
Yeah.
Yes. There was just two options and you were double optioned. So, I mean, we saw it coming. But I was always like,
wow.
I was always like, how does this woman not have an award? She's one of the most talented actresses in Singapore, in my humble opinion. And
thank you. You're so sweet for saying
that. Absolutely deserve it. Let's jump in. I'm going to ask you a riveting question to begin with.
Yes.
How important are awards as an actress?
Oh.
No, I'm not. No tea, no shade. As in, genuinely, I think it's a. And I'm not talking necessarily about Straits Times only, like here, just in awards in general. Like, what do they mean personally to you, and how important are they as a brand of actress?
I think for me, getting the award, it was nice. It's something nice to have, but not necessary. I will say, like, the moment I got news that I got the award, I was like, wow, okay, next time apply visa, very good. Next time apply grant, very good. Next time apply for things, very good. Next time going to a man's house to see his parents, good, can say. Yes. You know, and the lady is like, you are marrying my son, acting. And I said, yeah, actually I won an award. So like, I was like, okay, these are the top 3 reasons why it's great. But I would say beyond all of those, what mattered more to me was the response from the industry and from my friends.
Oh, good.
Like, I think that meant so much more to me. I think when I first put it online and I said, hey, I've been nominated, thank you so much, before I even won the award, the sheer number of people in the community, in the industry, who came forward to say, hey, well deserved, no matter what, we're here for you. I mean, those things, just to see that sheer amount of support kind of galvanized on one post, it meant so much to me. And also what I love most is the number of support and love I got from my peers. because that means a lot to me, because the industry is small, right? Everybody is on some level competing for kind of the same rice bowl. So when the people who I'm in the same level with come forward and they say, yo, man, you got it. Like, yeah, well deserved. Yeah, enjoy. Like, yeah, go for it, man. You got this. We believe in you. We support you. We want to root for you. Like, these things mean a lot to me. And it's important also to know that I have the support. Yeah, and that meant the world to me. So then when I got the award, it was really, really nice. It felt like sort of, like, what do you say, maybe a landmark or a pit stop at this point in my career to go, okay, at this point, I've kind of got this. But beyond that, it was also just very nice to kind of look back. I remember sitting down and logging onto Straits Times, kind of taking stock, because I wanted to go and print out the article and kind of keep a copy of it. Because I realized they had used one of our pictures in secondary as one of the main pictures as well. So I really wanted to kind of save that as a memory. And then I typed my name into the search bar and I went to look up and I realized, wow, actually over the years, there was a lot of works that I had done or been a part of, a lot of wonderful people I've worked with, a lot of things that we've actually done together. And it was kind of nice to sit there for a while and walk down memory lane and be like, wow, we've done this, huh? It's wow, it's been a journey. Yeah, and that was kind of nice and reflective as well.
I've got a fun little offshoot now that I just thought of off that. So, obviously, you won the award for Dear Evan Hansen, and in public's eye and Straits Times' eye, that's the award-winning production. That's your award-winning performance. If you could go back and give yourself some fun awards for your production, for your performances, like, or just give the production some awards yourself, what would be the roles that stand out for you that you would have thought, oh, that was a award for acting, or most stressful, or let's just have a bit of fun. Let's do the Rebekah Awards for your career.
Oh my gosh. I think maybe the most fun I had in an ensemble, I would say Merdeka. I had a solid ensemble. It was a great cast. It was 6 of us, and at that time we were just the second show to open at the new Walrus Theatre. So that was a huge honor, and for me to be a part of that, wow, I really appreciated that. Most stressful show ever, I would say, wow, this one's a tough one. I would say maybe stressful show in terms of last minute emergency would be maybe Miss British. It was also in 2019, and the night before we opened, I was hospitalized.
Oh no!
I had severe food poisoning. I was in the hospital, and I remember we were in tech, and I collapsed. And then they had to like get the costume off of me, send me to the hospital. Somebody had to grab my bag. My producer was there in the triage. We were waiting for a bed. We didn't have one. I threw up.
Oh gosh.
And then my producer was just holding my vomit in a bag. It was like, hello, anybody can help us? And then I was very determined to perform the show because I'm a maniac. And so I checked myself out of the hospital at 3 a.m. because the doctor came in around 11. I just hung around at 3 because he was handsome. But by around 11, he came to me. He was like, hey, is there anybody we can call? And I was like, well.
Doctor, if you're listening.
Doctor. And then I said, nobody. Because I didn't even tell my family. I didn't want them to know. Because if my mother knew, she would make me stay at home. And I was like, I have a show to perform. I didn't need her fussing over me too. So by 11, they said, hey, you can hang around a little bit more just to get a little bit more. They put me on a drip. Just to be a bit more hydrated because you have lost a lot of fluids from throwing up and diarrhea and everything. And I said, okay, I'll wait. Around 3 a.m., I checked myself out of the hospital because if I stayed any longer, I probably have to pay overnight charges for the bed. We don't want that. Then I still remember it was great. I walked into a 7-Eleven. I booked a cab home. Walked into a 7-Eleven. I was like, hi, excuse me, you got a plastic bag? I threw up into the plastic bag, threw it away into the trash can, got into the cab, and went back home. Then at 8 p.m. that night, I opened show.
Wow.
And it was great. Like, we had plastic bags situated at every entrance of the venue in case I needed to throw up.
And did you?
No, but I did go a couple of times just to run to the loo. The good thing was the show was structured in that it was really a lot of solo bits, long monologues for each character. So there'll be moments when Grace Kelly Selvi or Sharon Fraser would perform a monologue, and then they would turn around and they would be like, "Oh, Rebecca's not there. She's gone missing. Oh, she's in the loop. Okay." We would just keep going.
Improvise?
We would no, because I'm not supposed to be on stage.
Okay.
I'm not performing, but we're all supposed to be on stage. So at least for the first 2 shows, I was still a bit sick. And so they had no understudies at that point. COVID hadn't happened yet, so understudies were a very novel idea. And so when they were performing, I would take that chance. Okay, they're going to perform. Their monologue is 12 minutes long. Let's run. So I'll go pee, do whatever it is I have to do, and then I'll come back in time for my performance.
Wow.
And it was really a wild ride. But we did it, and the show happened, and we closed, and then I went home, and I took a long nap.
Well, I am going to give you the Show Must Go On award.
Yes.
And not only for that, because actually the show you won the award for, you had a similar situation in tech.
Yes, you were injured, were you not?
Yeah.
I was in the audience and the entire production crew and cast all went, like the biggest gasp and intake of breath. But like, again, I don't think we don't need to go into the whole story, but you just are somebody that just keeps going. Like as in your determination, watching you that night, knowing what had happened in tech and still giving that performance that you gave. I think that was opening night, right?
Yeah.
That, like injured, and we were all like, oh my goodness, is she okay? And then the way you came out and just got through, that kind of determination, where did that come from? Like,
I don't know. I think it's a sense of just, look, come on, you got to do this. You've been hired. Everybody's depending on you. You're here for a purpose. You got to do this. Show has to go on. Like for me, I've always been a big believer of leave your shit at the door. That's always been my thing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I also know that there are moments where I can be very hard on myself as a result. But I also am very big on, okay, whatever it is you're going through, unless it's going to affect the performance, leave it at the door. No one needs to know your drama. Nobody needs to know what's happening at 2 o'clock in the morning. Just go. And at that point in time, I think Dear Evan Hansen is a difficult show. And I was aware of just how many of us were on board. And the only thing on my mind was, okay, you've got a song. You're in pain right now, but let's just go. Put that into the song. Let's go. You have 1 hour in between this and opening night to rest and figure out and cry about your leg. But right now, we got to go. We have to go. We have to finish this. And so that was the only thing on my mind. Really.
Where was the injury, if you don't mind me asking?
I think it was on my knee, around my
Right.
knee area and leg area. Because I think I kind of just hit the set. I won't go into detail, but
No, sure.
I bumped into one of the set elements as there was some kerfuffle as I was moving and the set was moving. But beyond that, it's one of those growing pains that just happens when working with set elements.
Yeah,
So
of
it's
course.
nobody's fault. It's just one of those things that happen. And I'm glad that we all move through it safe and sound.
but again, the Show Must Go On award
The show
goes
must
Yes.
go on.
to Rebekah Sangeetha
Incredible.
Dorai. Yes! Insert sound effect here.
Where did it all begin, though? Were you as a child? Were you one that liked to sing, to dance, to perform, or is
Yeah.
it something that evolved?
Pretty much it. I actually stumbled into acting.
Oh, really, right,
I was always a musician first. I was always a singer first.
right.
And so this year, I think marks 25 years that I've been singing.
Right.
And so I started when I was very young. I still remember the first song I ever sang was Once Upon a December from Anastasia.
Oh,
And that was my first semblance of, a song. And I tried to rewrite it. And that was my first foray into, this must be what it feels like to rewrite a song or remix a song. And I still remember when my sister was singing something in the kitchen and I watched her as a kid and I was like, what are those sounds coming out of her mouth? It's song. And a lot of music I learned through mimicry because I was like, what is this sound? And I taught myself to sing. And we weren't really the kind of family that had money to go for singing lessons. I didn't even know there was such thing as singing lessons. I just found it fun to imitate these sounds that are coming out the radio box. And I feel very lucky that I was growing up around the time when we had greats like Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, big voices on the radio,
Yes.
Mariah Carey. So I was imitating all of these women, and that's kind of how I taught myself to sing.
right.
On the flip side, it took me a long time to find my own voice because I was so used to inhabiting other people's voices.
Right, yes.
So it took me a while to get there, but once I did, I was like, okay, this is the tone that is mine. This is what I like to sing. This is how I sound.
And when did that evolve into pursuing it as a career?
Pursuing it as a career, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that happen naturally. I remember when I finished secondary school, I was very, very interested in the arts, and I really wanted to pursue a career in the arts. So my family was against it, understandably, because a career in the arts doesn't pay well.
Right.
And so I would have loved to just go into art school right out of secondary school. But to honor my family, I went into JC, but I really hated it. I could not do a JC education. It was very difficult for me to sit there stifled into one chair for hours on end trying to learn topics that just didn't make sense to me. And I remember when I finally went into NAFA, I felt so at home. I was like, wow, these are my people. Every day is a creative wonderland.
Right.
These are people who are as quirky and as strange as I am. They all think differently. They speak differently. Their minds go into different places. There is no strict boxes where I had to sit in and be a certain way.
Yes.
Because I remember I was so adamant, because going through those 2 years in JC killed me. It was very, very difficult. And I was very determined. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. So when we came down to my prelims, I bluffed my mum. I told my mum, actually, we can study from home. I just didn't turn up for my prelims. I absconded. I ran away. I just didn't turn up. I didn't sit for the prelim papers. And when it came down to the A levels, I scrawled my way through the papers. I didn't even bother to fill them up properly. I think the only thing maybe I did put some sense of effort in was general paper, which is like English maybe.
Yes.
And then everything else, I was just having fun. Like, I still remember my math paper. That was a rhombus, and I was like, I've got 2.5 hours. So I made the rhombus into a spaceship. Then I had time, so I drew an alien. Then I was like, I still got time. Okay, I draw a girlfriend for the alien. I still got time. Another rhombus on the other page, make another spaceship. And then I remember the lecturer passing by just to look at me. He just took a double take, like, what? Okay. And then he went to the front and told the other teachers, and they all had a nice laugh. And I went, yes, laugh. You laugh now.
Who's laughing now?
But yeah, I remember, I think when I got my A-level results, clearly I failed. But that was by design, because I really could not pass. I did not want to pass my A-levels. Maybe to someone else it's a cop-out, but for me, I was very determined, because if I had gotten good results, I know that I'll be forced to go into university.
Yes.
And I did not want that.
Yes.
I made this desperate attempt so that I could go. And also because I did my research. I know that to go into NAFA, you can use O-levels. And I got like 8 points in my O-levels, so I was not worried. So I was like, okay, I can use that to enter NAFA with auditions and a test. And so I did. And it was the best. After those 2 dreadful years, those 3 years I spent in NAFA were the best 3 years of my life. I had such a good time there.
And when did that lead? What was your first performance? Your first professional performance, or semi-professional, or?
Wow, my first professional performance. And maybe we can put a pin in that later when we come to talk about the concert I'm planning.
Oh, okay.
Was actually when I was in secondary school. It was in 2007 at the Esplanade.
Right.
Yeah, and we did a version for the Drama CCA. Actually performed. The Drama CCA actually performed their big show at the Esplanade, and I got to be a part of that. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm in the Esplanade. And sometimes I still think about it. Even last week, I think I went to watch this show called Biru in the Deep Blue Sea at the Esplanade Theatre. I remember sitting there at the theatre looking around at the space, and I went, I was here. I was here. I was in a hall as big as this about 18 years ago.
Do you still get that same excitement when you step on a stage now? Like, what's
all the time?
Yeah, same.
Every time. For me, I always have so many feelings when I'm about to step on stage. There's fear, there's anxieties, depending on what I'm going through at that point in time. There's fear, there's anxiety, there's rush, there's excitement, there's tingling in my fingertips, and I love that. For me, that's important to feel these things. I feel like the moment I'm about to go on stage and I don't feel anything, it means I don't care anymore.
Yes.
That's dangerous for me. But if I can feel something, that means I know, yes, this means a lot to me. There's still something there. Yeah.
Now, you say you went to NAFA and that's where you begin to hone your craft. But there's something interesting about your process of preparation, isn't there? How do you prepare, Rebekah? What's your process?
An actor prepares.
An actor
written by.
Do you mean like for a show or just day to day?
Both.
Well, here's something I do every single day. I wake up at 4 a.m. every single day to practice singing.
Bet your neighbours love you.
To be fair, I stay in Jurong. And Jurong, I stay in an area with a lot of old people. So actually by like 4:15, 5 o'clock, they wake up already. Like by 4:15, 4:30, there'll be one uncle in the corner like... by 5 o'clock, there'll be somebody downstairs like, like we're a very early neighborhood.
Remind me not to move to Jurong.
Hey, but I gotta tell you, my estate is great, okay? When I won the Straits Times Award, my neighbors in my HDB pulled together and they bought me a giant rose bouquet as congratulations. Had it delivered to my house.
That is the sweetest thing.
Hashtag Jurong. And I took a picture, then I sent to my MP.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. I was like, hello, sir. You see, I thought you might want to know your constituents. Did this, very nice, right?
Oh.
That's the sort of kampong spirit that's still there, even though it's a concrete jungle. There's still that kampong spirit of community there.
Like sometimes
Beautiful.
I just yell at people just from my window.
And to be fair, you singing at 4 o'clock, that would be the most beautiful alarm to wake up to, honestly.
So sweet.
Because I'm a super fan of your voice. So what sort of do you like to explore lots of different styles at 4 a.m.? Are we rapping at 4 a.m.?
To clarify, I'm not belting at 4 in the morning. I do, for me, because I feel like the voice is a muscle. And for me, I feel like you have to train every day. That's just for me. You have to train every day. I feel like, especially if I'm performing in a show, the measure of how good I am in a show is just not how much rehearsal I've had. It's the kind of amount of work I put into my voice every single day that allows me to train that instrument to be nice and strong and prime. So I don't just wait until I'm hired or wait until the first day of rehearsal. It's an everyday thing for me. But it's also because I'm not necessarily forcing myself to do it. I genuinely enjoy it. My body clock wakes me up naturally around that time. I did try recently, because I had a surgery recently, where I had to be out of commission for a while. And I thought, maybe I can use this to change my body clock. Maybe I can start, waking up at 9. But it doesn't feel the same. I quite like that. Also, my body clock just is so used to waking me up at 4. And I quite like that twilight zone feeling at 4 a.m. when everything's kind of quiet for a bit, but the neighborhood's kind of waking up. And it's also that moment where I'm not exactly belting. I'm trying lots of different things to kind of wake my voice up. So I do a lot of agility exercises. I do lots of scales. My favorite thing to practice with is riffs. So at any point in time, I'm always trying different kinds of riffs. Like my favorite one, which I used as my warm-up for secondary, was Saint Harrison's Ego Talking. So it's the one that goes, Ego on it tonight, my ego.
Oh, marvelous. Fabulous. That sounds beautiful in the headphones. That's gorgeous.
So just kind of practicing like that. And then sometimes I just agility exercises. But I got to tell you, the first time I did that, it was very hard. It didn't sound like this. It was very it sounded like a hamster dying in a corner.
But because you do it every day, do you find it easier to
much easier
to experiment, to push your voice? Is it a lot easier now that you've got into the routine of that daily practice, that daily exercise?
And I have been doing this actually for many years. It's been like decades. I've really been doing this for many years, but I genuinely enjoy it. So last time, I think when I was in school, it was something that I did. Like for me, most importantly, every day has to happen. The 4 a.m. formalized thing, I think, only really started when I got into maybe just about 6 or 7 years ago, because sometimes you start rehearsals at 10. Or 9, and then it doesn't really leave time to practice. And for me, I wanted to make sure that when I entered rehearsals, I'm not warming up then, I'm boiling over. I wanted to warm up beforehand.
Right.
And I like my voice to be nice and prime when I enter rehearsals.
Right.
And I found that especially useful when starting musicals, because musicals are very difficult. It's very, very, very different, because I'm used to live performance, or I'm used to singing songs to a track.
Right.
Musicals were a whole different ballgame.
Yes.
So I remember when we were rehearsing for I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, I had never done a show like that before in my life. That was my first musical.
And it was the first time I saw you perform as well.
That was my first ever musical.
And it was amazing. I loved the cast. You just did so well. And that was your first one.
Yeah.
My goodness,
Yeah.
you were so tight, all four of you. It was marvelous.
Yeah, it was a great cast. It was a great show, and TJ was a wonderful director. And we had we had an amazing understudy, Nurul. We also had an incredible crew. Elaine was on board as well. She was very, very supportive. I mean, we had Edith Piaf beforehand, but that was more like songs and scenes. And I have done like the odd musical at church and like the DBS, corporate musical, have lah, But like if we're really talking like a Broadway production, then I'm actually a huge musical newbie. So I Love You, You're Perfect was my first. Unforgotten the Musical was my second. Secondary the Musical was my first big stage production with Checkpoint. And that was my third musical, and Dear Evan Hansen was my fourth.
Wow.
And the rest is history, Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah, I was quite like, wow, really?
And literally, I think it says a lot, because all of those roles and all of those shows are just like so much. Like your process and everything we just talked about there, like you are just a director's dream, honestly. Like to come in because you care, like and it's the job. And I'm speaking frankly, not everybody sees it in that same way. So how do you navigate that in the industry? And kind of let's frame it in terms of advice for like, because I think it has served you very well treating it in that way, and it is a business. So what would you say to younger actors in terms of getting their own routines to getting to the point where they can feel just as confident in rehearsal rooms?
I think find what works for you, maybe. I mean, for me, in terms of voice, like accessing my voice is something that, like I said, I've been doing it for 25 years. I know my voice like the back of my hand. But at the same time, I'm also allowing room, because I don't know what I don't know. There are things I don't know. And in working on Secondary and Dear Evan Hansen, I discovered limits to my voice I didn't know I had. And that was the most beautiful thing, to still, after all this time, be discovering. And I think so it's to allow room for discovery. Don't feel like you know everything. There is no way. I think one of my favorite things about this craft is that I feel like up until the age of 70 or 80 or 90, I will still be learning. And that excites me.
Yes.
I love it. I really love it. Like I was telling a friend yesterday that when I see someone do something and I immediately feel a little insecure, that insecurity excites me. Because I'm like, oh, how come she can do that? Wow, very good leh. Okay, how can I do? What can I do? How can I get that too? Like it excites me. It's a sense of, wow. Like sometimes when I saw, like I remember I had this feeling when I watched Julia Gardner in Ozark, and she delivered such a stunning performance. I remember looking at her. I remember replaying some of her scenes multiple times, and I went, wow, very good leh. Okay, how can I learn from this? What is this? Can I do it? Very good, very good. What can I do? How do I access that? Can I do it right now? Do I have the tools right now within me, within my capacity to do this? Okay, I don't have. Okay, how can I access that? And
that's such a wonderful attitude to have, because I can imagine there are performers out there that, and it's very easy to be self-critical. It's very easy to say, oh, I'm not good at this, and then see somebody that say, oh, I don't have the talent for that, or I can't reach that, and then immediately put up that wall and not continue to evolve and develop. So it's a marvelous mindset that you have. Beautiful.
It's absolutely essential, if you ask me. I think we're always learning and growing, whether you're a performer or not. It's something that we should always be learning. And what's really interesting, I was just reflecting there that because your journey started like training wise in pure acting, right, as in kind of the kind of straight acting route.
Yeah.
And then we've only just jumped into musical theatre. Yeah. And I was just kind of thinking of all the actors that started in the acting route and then now have been adopted by musical theatre and now can't get out of it. Like we've got Chow and Marco. There's so many there. So I feel like you are now absolutely stolen into the world of musical theatre.
I know. I didn't used to be a musical theatre girl. In fact, I used to really not like musicals.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, because I like gritty. I like dark. I like human condition. I like dangerous. And I guess I had the misconception that musical theatre was all fa la 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 la. I ate a hot dog. I stepped on dog poo. Hello. I had this idea that was what it was. But then I think the first time I changed my mind was when I saw this musical theatre performers do Angels in America. And it wasn't exactly like a musical, but to see these incredible musical theatre performers attempt this very difficult play, that changed my mind. That changed my mind and go, okay, maybe it's not all fa la 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 after all. And it took me a while to get there, namely just 2 years ago. But it's growing on me. It's growing on me. And the more I worked in it over the last 2 years with different kinds of people, the more I experimented with different kinds of musical theatre forms. Because, well, I've done a local musical with Musical Theatre Live. I've done a musical with Waish. I've done 2, American Broadway-style musicals. And so I've been lucky enough in just the last 4 productions. I'm really a baby, anti-baby. But within just the last 4 productions, I've been blessed or lucky to experiment at least 3 different styles. And I feel very grateful. I feel lucky. I'm like, I'm going at, okay, so these are new things to learn. These are new ways of seeing. Okay, these are 3 different ways of musicals. I'm looking forward to like 15 more. I don't know how many more there are. And I'm going to learn a lot more, and it's exciting.
And with that, are there now some dream roles in musical theatre? Are there ones?
I have made a list.
Have you? Tell us immediately.
I do. Well, my number 1 dream role would always be Effie White in Dreamgirls.
Right, of course.
That one, I love.
I see you completely. Absolutely.
I also really like Norma in Sunset Boulevard. I think that's a beautiful one. I would also love to do Gypsy at some point. I have so many, I think Gypsy, I think Sally Bowles in Cabaret, that really gritty moment where
these gritty actors
she comes. I love the gritty. I love the reflection of the human condition. I love when we give actors an opportunity to be human. I tend to shy away from roles that paint women as like the pretty or the young ingenue.
No, sure.
And, luckily, I'm usually not the young ingenue lah. In Singapore, I'm not exactly the girl next door. I remember Dion Young. When we were in school, she once said this joke, which I remember all the time. She said, I'm a girl next door lah, huh? It just depends on where you stay. And she wrote that joke, and it's such an incredible joke, and I still think about it all the time. When I go in the casting, I'm like, I'm the girl next door. It depends on where you stay. And I realized, not to dismiss myself, maybe I can be the girl next door. Why not? Who says no? But I do realize that when I look at maybe the kind of actor I am and the roles I chase, I'm deeply attracted to what makes people work the way they do. Why do they do these things, especially the dirty, disgusting, difficult, ugly things. I love when actors are allowed to go there. And I love, my favorite kind of role I ever did was one where I was allowed to be that. I didn't have to wear a single drop of makeup. I came on set and I was allowed to be feral and really unleash. And that was one of my favorite roles to date.
What role was it?
This was a role called Edith. It was a short film that I filmed in KL. And it's traveled and it's been successfully accepted into multiple film festivals. And it's currently showcased in the US series Bloody Disgusting.
Right.
And it's currently on air now. And it's quite a big deal that we got in.
When did you film it? This was recent.
I filmed this in 2022 in Kuala Lumpur. And we filmed in an abandoned warehouse, abandoned police lockup/warehouse in KL.
Wow.
So there were no lights, no electricity, nothing. It was extremely dirty. There were scenes where there were maggots on the ground and I had to lie with them. I loved it.
Wow. She's such an actress. This is when you're at drama school and there's the actors and the musical theatre students at school. You always know when you're talking to a musical theatre person or an actor. Although she's in musical, she's definitely of the actor breed. All the musical theatre people, maggots!
I kind of want to ask, but I kind of don't want to know. How far would you go? Wow, that's dedication. I think that's the theme of this episode.
Yeah. No, but I think the how far do you go? I always think is a very interesting thing in theatre, because it is, of course, we do push it, but there is also those boundaries as well, and that communication, which I think for me, I've seen over the years in Singapore that get much better. Yes. I think you'd agree?
I agree.
And especially in film and on stage, that kind of discussion about intimacy and how we work together, to avoid any misunderstandings and miscommunications. I think the industry has got better at that, I think, over the last few years. But it also allows you that space to go, okay, I'm willing to go this far, and I'm safe in this place, and there's beauty in this space. But if I go too far, then it's...
The key is to always have a conversation about what's allowed and what is the boundary. Because I can do whatever I want, but then I can't... It has to be within the boundaries that is acceptable and laid by the people around me, because I'm not alone. There are people with me who are creating with me. It's not the Rebekah Dorai show. Then it just becomes about me wanking off, me doing whatever I want. Then that's... me being problematic, really. It reminds me of certain method actors, not all. So not discounting method acting, but more of the actors who abuse it. Okay. And it's usually a very specific kind of men who just have problematic behavior, and they get away with it by saying, I'm a method actor, by sending dead carcasses to their castmates, or going like, yeah, I'm going to kiss you and I'm going to touch you down there, but it's real because we're acting. And I'm like, no. There's a reason. You're acting, so act lah. It's like that one guy who's just like, my dear boy, why don't you just act? And so I think we have to remember that as far as I want to go, it is always in a discussion with the people I'm involved with. So it's a discussion with the director, with if there is an intimacy coordinator on set or in theatre, and it's with them. It's also having a very important discussion with my co-actors as well. You don't just anyhow go and touch people or feel like you can do whatever you want. Like it's creativity, and there's a sense of feeling unbound in going wherever the instinct takes you, but also there are boundaries. Yeah. And it's important to honor that.
Yeah. Okay, so with so many things we've touched on, talking, films and acting and singing at 4 a.m. and musicals, like what a varied and long CV and interest list you have. So how do you possibly take all of these interests and loves and experience and go, where am I going next? Like what is the plan for the next few years for you?
I remember last year, after secondary, a lot of people were coming up to me and they're like, hey, you got album or not? You got a Spotify album? Can we hear you? And then I realized, don't have. I mean, I realized that I've always been a musician first, even when I was 15. I have a whole book of songs I've written from since I was 15 years old that have never seen the light of day for almost 2 decades. And I was like, okay, maybe I should go back to it. And I realized that's something I love to do, and that's something I used to do often. It's just that over time, I guess when I went into acting, I kind of, no time, so never really did it. And then I have written for productions here and there, and I have sung for other people, but I realized it's actually been a while since I've sung or written for myself. And that is actually the core of how I used to work through so many of my emotions, by writing it out. And I realized that, actually I have not done this, I've written for myself in a while. And so after secondary, I needed to take quite a lot of time to heal and figure things out, because my family did suffer a personal tragedy. We lost a family member on the first week of secondary. So secondary was a tough one to kind of figure that out. And so after the performance wrapped, there was no time to grieve or think or figure a lot of things out. So even though like people were asking, like, hey, can we hear an album? Do you have your own music? We really want to hear more from you. I had no capacity for that. The only thing that was in the forefront of my mind was, okay, I had the show, we did it, the show had to go on, and now that the show is done, it's time to focus on my family and figure out all these emotions that was going on. And I took a lot of time to do that. And in between that, I had 4 months before Dear Evan Hansen started. So those 4 months was really to figure out all of these things, where I stood emotionally, to heal, to be with my family, but also to start preparing for Dear Evan Hansen. So there was really no time to think about music then. And after Dear Evan Hansen, again, people were like, so you got music or not? Then I guess because some time had passed, I was like, yeah, maybe I should write something. Maybe I should go back to that. Maybe I should honor that side of me that wrote music for myself. And so I've decided to write and release my debut album.
Ooh.
I'm working on that currently.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Is this an exclusive?
Sure.
Lovely. Oh, wow.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
So, right, okay. So, where do I start here? So, are most of the songs written?
Yes.
Most of the songs have written?
All original music.
Wow. Something I appreciate is writing. I would love to be a writer, and when you were saying about writing for yourself there, that touched something in me there. I'm like, so thank you for that. But how does it start with the writing? Do you start on a word? Do you start on a phrase? Do you start on an emotion? Where does it start to becoming a fully developed song?
I think for me, I had to work backwards a little bit because about 20 years ago, wow, 20 years ago.
I don't know whether to feel old or ancient when you keep saying stuff like that.
We are all very young.
During the war.
We are just, well, you're young, we're post-snapper. We're all very young now, we're all very young. Yeah, I think when I first was writing, it was so long ago now, I don't remember, but a lot of it was maybe emotions, maybe stuff I was feeling, that I just put it down into paper. And I did write actually for Checkpoint in 2 songs and a story. So it was a commission work, but it was a song that I had written, and I realized, wow, I kind of
There's something there.
There's something there. And then I guess because of family and work, again, after COVID, when things picked up, I kind of left that to the wayside because the focus became, okay, time to earn money now. And so now where I'm at is because I'm creating a themed album, my process is different.
Right.
So I'm writing an album centered solely on the process of grief. So I'm
Right.
writing about 5 to 7 songs, and it's called the Grief Album. Because I realized that there's a lot of things I've had to work through or go through in my life. And one of the best ways I've always done it, at least what I remember from the past, was writing all of it out. And for me, I'm hoping that it'll be a cathartic process for me. If anything, even if it doesn't speak to anybody in the world, at least it is a place for me to kind of release all of that. It's a point of reflection on paper to say, hey, you've done this. And I hope this is a launching pad for you to move on, to heal. So that is a message to myself. And I'm also hoping that it speaks to other people who are going through grief. And it's easier because it's a themed, not necessarily easier, but there was a nice kind of process that ties in together because it's a themed album. And so in each of these songs, I'm tracing different points of grief. So maybe in one of the songs, I talk about grieving the loss of my father, you know, what it's like to not have a father figure, and maybe needing to parent that side of myself for so much growing up. Maybe in another song, I'm approaching loss of bodily autonomy, where I discuss the pain of going through sexual assault and grieving that loss of, you know, my own bodily autonomy and how it feels to have that invaded. And that is also grief, because there's a lot of hurt, a lot of pain under all of these things. But when I really go past all of that anger, what I really found was grief. Real deep pain. And there's a lot of things over the years that I'm grieving from, I realize. And so there's just so much. And I realized I want to feel lighter as a person.
Yes.
Like my motto for 2025 is healing and feeling lighter.
Yes.
You know, I didn't want all these things to keep weighing me down anymore. And so I thought, hey, one of the biggest things that have always made me have a release, one of the things that has really fed my soul, no matter what, has always been music. And so that's why the music felt like a great way to access this. So I've got 5 to 7 songs that I'm hoping to kind of culminate. So earlier I was saying like, hey, let's put a pin in it.
Yes,
and that
please, yes.
thing where I was talking about. Because I remember my first experiences or thoughts of performance ever was either in the Victoria Concert Hall or in the Esplanade Esplanade Theatre, many, many years ago. I still remember, I think the very first time, if I'm not wrong, I think it was 2007, which would mean that in 2027, it would be exactly 20 years. It'd be a 2-decade anniversary. And I thought how cool it would be to premiere, do a concert at either one of these places in 2027 as a sort of a 20-year mark of kind of reflecting through everything I've been through and reflecting on that growth and journey. And so I'm kind of marking 2027 for now, and then just working backwards of, okay, I've got a concert here. Okay, when do I need to book? Okay, when do I need to write the song? Okay, when am I workshopping these songs? What is the material I want to share? What is the stories that accompany this music? So I'm kind of just working backwards right now.
That's such an innovative way in terms of goal setting. I mean, TJ and I are educators, as you well know, and we tell kids all set goals and things like that, and there's always a half-hearted effort into it. But that idea of, right, that's the goal, but working backwards, that's inspired. Love it. I'm going to try that myself later. Marvellous.
And I am marking my calendar for 2027.
Yes, quite.
So,
Quite.
So I'm just interested, the process of performing music, because I think the way you talk about music is quite interesting, because a lot of musicians are very giggy, and they're always gigging and always performing music. But the way you talk about your music, it's this kind of this journey for yourself, and it's really kind of having that that time for you to reflect, and you're kind of putting that into the music. And the goal of performing the music doesn't seem like the traditional journey of a musician, so to speak, of I'm performing on gigs every weekend and making it's really this even bigger goal of this is going to be one special moment where I share this. It's again almost a little bit theatrical in a way, I suppose. So again, very unique approach to kind of how that is. So will we see you kind of debuting some of these things before in lead up to that, or it's really kind of this one moment that we're building to?
Definitely have to workshop lah.
Yeah.
I feel I probably will not wait for that. There'll be certain things I think that I may reserve for the big review at the concert, but there's also a certain amount of work and workshopping that I'm doing. So like I think I'm aiming to finish principal writing to be done by mid-May, and then of course workshopping with at least I've kind of booked in. I was kind of looking at the calendar, and I've kind of put in at least for this year 2 to 3 workshopping sessions with different groups of people to kind of get feedback and say like, hey, how does this land, and how does this work? What do you feel? Is this too long? Is this too weird? Because there is also, while I'm very feely and very spiritual about all these things, like music is spiritual to me, there is also an element of work. There is work that needs to be done. There is an element of, okay, now I need to be a writer. I need to shave off this word. This word, the rhyme for me sounds nice, but maybe a bit weird, you know? You know, like I can go catastrophe and then catastrophe, you know, like those kinds of geeky things. But people will be like, this one doesn't land quite right. And I've been through this before where I've written a song and somebody did give me a feedback like, hey, by the way you broke up this word, it kind of is just disjointed. Because during COVID, I did a couple of these salons where I wrote a song, and then the song for Checkpoint actually, and then attended a couple of overseas salons, basically where you go and get feedback for your music. And I just was like, hey, can I just show you guys this song? And then different people give different kinds of feedback and thoughts, and those things are very useful, just to kind of mark just the fact that at some point there's a lot of feeling and so much involved in it, but it's also work, and I got to do the work as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So exciting. I mean, for you, just this is just in your blood, right? There's creating and making and just a true artist, like through and through, like whether it's
so
music
sweet.
or theatre, and just the nicest person with it as well, because I've known you for a few years now, and I love hanging out with you. Now, I think our tea's going cold.
Yes, this has been, Rebekah, this has been an absolute pleasure. And I wasn't expecting it to be so inspirational as well. You've triggered so many thoughts in my mind for me personally. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much. I didn't realise how spiritual you were when it came to the art and the creative process. So thank you so much for that. It gave me a lot to think about.
Thank you for having me.
No, our pleasure. And we cannot wait to see you on the stage again. But thank you so much, Rebekah. And again, well deserved. And congratulations for your award as well.
Oh, thank you.
Best Supporting Actress and more.
All the best.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, TJ, my heart feels like a warm blanket has been put over it and received a hug from Rebekah. That
Absolutely.
was wonderful. Do you know what it felt like, TJ? It felt like the therapy that I didn't know I needed. there's such a determination, there's such a determination, and the process is so interesting. Her process is so interesting, but there's balance there. There's balance, and also there's joy there. There's joy in the craft. Absolutely inspirational.
No, honestly, she's just so determined, and that resilience, it's just like second to none. She's just like such an inspirational woman in every way, like really genuinely one of my favorite actresses both on and off stage in Singapore. Like, just loved working with her when I've had the opportunity to, and having these conversations. She's got so much to say and so much advice to give as well. So I think, listeners, that was such a treat for everybody, whether you're in theatre or not.
Of course, a massive thank you to Rebekah for coming in, and we wish her all the best in her future ventures, which again is on stage and off stage.
Yeah.
So good luck to you, Rebekah.
Amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's almost about time for everything. But please, if you are really enjoying the podcast, which many of you are, and many of you are telling all your friends, which is great. But if you haven't already, please go give it a like. We also could do with some reviews as well. So if you are loving the show, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or most of the podcast platforms, you can drop us a review. A 5-star would be lovely, but whatever you feel. So drop us a review. It helps us go up the podcast charts as well.
Now, my tea's gone cold, love. Shall we leave it there?
Absolutely. It's time to wrap up this episode.
So it's cheerio. We'll be back soon.
And a ta-ra from me.
And to anyone working in Singapore theatre for the next month,
Break a leg.